Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the most addicting FNAF fan games the community has ever created. From insanely satisfying gameplay loops to fan games that are almost impossible to stop replaying, these games somehow keep pulling you back in over and over again. Some of these are so fun they can genuinely eat up hours of your life without you even noticing, so let's get into them. Remakes of the original Click Team FNAF games, something that is definitely pretty popular within the FNAF community. However, how many of them can you name that are actually memorable? FNAF 1 Remake, FNAF 2 Reimagined, Hopeless Pursuit. Sure, those are all titles that are definitely memorable for one reason or another, but the game we're going to be covering today I feel is very memorable. A game I only discovered recently and I really enjoyed. Today, we'll be talking about Five Nights at Freddy's Legacy, a recreation of the first FNAF game with so many changes, it's hard to tell that's even what it is. So strap in, because we've got a lot to talk about this time around. Join me today as we clap our cheeks into the world of Five Nights at Freddy's Legacy. Legacy does not begin in a very typical FNAF fashion. We begin in this red void of smoke, and a disembodied voice of who knows who speaking to us. They ask if they've reached us, and after confirming, they ask us the question, do you know what happens when the past gets infused with agony? After explaining that the answer is that it changes, they ask us one more question. Why did we drown in the lake? They say that we've disturbed its peace. Not knowing what it is, the voice tells us we've brought consequences. So this tells me that this disembodied voice is most likely Old Man Consequences, from referencing the lake, the literally saying consequences, to of course the red background. That's really the only line I can draw as to who this is. But with that, we're booted to the menu screen and we can really begin. But of course, this game is still not done being extra. Upon starting a new game, we get what feels like a teaser trailer for the game, but it's inside of the game. I have no idea, it's really goofy and unique and I like it. But would you believe me if I told you that even after that, this game is still not done being itself? Let's just say that, because it's not. Afterwards, we get an opening cutscene.
Hello, my name is Ethan Caldwell, and tonight we continue our coverage of the developing case surrounding the mysterious disappearance at the recently reopened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The public had been captivated by the case. The missing security guard, 25 years old Daniel Grace, had last been seen arriving late for work on Monday night. No official causes had been released by officials, but the bizarre circumstances of Grace's disappearance had fostered speculation. Tragic accident, or was something more sinister involving the recently reopened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza?
Very interesting opening cutscene. Voice acting, not terrible at all. Really setting the scene. I'm enjoying this. What happens next? Oh my god, we're still not done being extra. Okay, that's fine. I can work with this. After watching the cutscene, we begin outside of the building and actually have to walk inside and into the back room to start doing tasks before the night truly begins. As far as I'm aware, there's nothing interesting you can find while walking to this back room. Oh, that fat motherfucker. Jesus. Ugly. So once we get there, we can explain the downloading log task minigame. It's very simple. You have two monitors. One monitor you can use to download the phone call for each night so that you can listen to it later, and you can also read some interesting information. The second monitor is a camera feed that auto-scrolls through the cameras in the building. All you have to do is download the phone call by clicking and holding, and if Bonnie ever comes into the back room with you, just hide under your desk until you hear him leave. Oh my fucking Christ! Oh my god. Hey, Bonnie's on the move again. Why are you looking at me like... He's giving me that dream angle, bro. And don't give me the dream angle, bro. Once you finish fully downloading the phone call, you'll be thrown into the night. But before we can talk about the night, we first have to talk about the lore information you can read. After the disappearance of Charlie, the Fredbear's Family Diner closes its doors for good. Finally, I'm tired of working in this place. The animatronics smell like rotten eggs. I hope they never open again. So it seems in this universe, we have some name swaps. That's always fun. Who is Charlie? I have no idea. However, it's pretty clear he's dead as fuck. Not very riz, but okay, you do you, I guess, boo. They say the animatronics smell like eggs. Weird diss, I suppose, but there are probably dead kids in there, so I guess that checks out too. Anyways, onto the actual night section. How does that sound? Night 1 gives us literally the longest phone call on the face of the planet. Seriously, it lasts until 4:30 a.m. Please God kill me. Anyways, fuck what the phone guy has to say. I'm gonna do it for him. My voice is way better, and I know you guys have some odd things to say about my voice. Yes, I read every single comment I get, by the way, guys. Some of you are fucking freaks. Behave. Let's start by talking about your office because it is a little different from FNAF 1. You do still have 2 doors, so that's nothing new. On the left side, you'll be able to flash the light down the hallway and hold the door closed. Simple sugar. This is what I do to my Willie in bed. I just fucking rock it back and forth. I'm gonna shut up. The right side, however, is where things start to get a bit different. You'll notice there's no door. Well, uh-oh. Where the fuck did it go, huh? Well, joke's on you, there was never a door there in the first place. Why the hell would this company install a door on one side and not the other? I have no fucking idea. Someone clearly did the budget very poorly and they should be ashamed of themselves because this is just embarrassing. To compensate for no door, you can flash your flashlight down the hall and see a grand total of fucking nothing at all because your flashlight is actually ass. But who cares, right? Let's just hope we never have to use it. In front of us is a monitor that surprisingly is not our camera. On it, we have 3 options: reboot, alarm, and vent. I literally never once used the reboot menu, so I'm just gonna pretend like it doesn't even exist. The alarm and vent sections, however, are important, and I will explain them more once they become important. Anyways, who are the big bastards introduced on this night? Well, it's a remake of FNAF 1, so that should be pretty obvious. Night 1 introduces Bonnie and Chica. Don't click off the video! I promise they're interesting and do wildly different things than what they do in the original. I wouldn't be covering this game if they didn't. I promise. Let's start with Bonnie since we've already encountered him in the pre-night minigame. Bonnie can attack both your left and right doors. Fuck. I was hoping we could avoid using the flashlight, but I guess I'll just put my balls in a vice grip then, who cares? Bonnie is a shy little autistic emo femboy and doesn't handle eye contact very well. So if you stare at the camera he's on for too long, he'll crank that Soulja Boy and knock the entire thing offline for the rest of the night. Which, by the way, the phone guy mentions that the repair for said camera will come out of our paycheck if that is to happen. And since we're living in FNAF world where we're making a whopping $100 fucking a week, I highly doubt one of our paychecks would even be enough to pay for that anyways. So let's really try to prevent that from happening, shall we? If Bonnie chooses to attack your left door, you will be able to see him in the hallway when you use your light. From that point, just hold the door closed until you hear him bang on it and congrats, problem solved, he'll go back to the stage. Bonnie's attack on the right door is a little bit more interesting. When Bonnie gets to the right door, he will literally enter your office, which is just not a fun sight at all and will in fact make your blood pressure spike to 168 in a fraction of a second. Once he's in your office, you'll have to use the alarm system to make the loudest fucking noise of all time. And when you do, he'll run away because it's too loud and overstimulating. And remember, he's a little autistic, he's sensitive to sound, so you're really just bullying an autistic kid. That's not very epic, but do what you gotta do, I guess. Chica, on the other hand, also has 2 means of attacking you. The first has her go to a certain camera. Now pause for a moment. I want you to take a look at her belly and tell me, what camera do you think she goes to? If you said the bathroom to shit, I'll give you half points because she does travel through the bathroom. Chica's looking me in my eyes. Look at a cupcake. Look at a cupcake, bro. Look at his eyes. He's trying to seduce me and shit. And it's like low-key kind of working. I meant what? But no, the actual answer is the kitchen because she's a whale. If she's in the kitchen, you will have to use the bell button to scare her away. If you're wondering why the sound of a bell that signifies that food is ready would scare a hippo who eats for a living away, the answer is because she gets scared that the food has already been served in the dining room and she's really scared that she may have missed it and maybe the kids in the dining room have already started eating, but she actually has a rule in her house where nobody is allowed to eat until she's full, except spoiler alert, roly-poly ass chicken bitch is never full, so all of the kids starve and die. Anyways, move. The stupidest thing I've ever written. Anyways, moving on to her second attack where she goes into your vents. Now pause. There's a very easy fat joke I could make here about her not being able to fit in the vent. However, I would never make a fat joke, and this game indirectly makes one for me. Let me explain. Throughout my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, Chica attacked me through the vent no more than 3 times ever. For some reason, she just doesn't really ever do it, which would lead me to believe that my headcanon that she's such a fat bitch. Which would lead me to believe that my headcanon that she's such a fat bitch that she's too scared to try and move through the vents would be correct. If you want to hear my alternative headcanon as to why she doesn't attack through the vents, even though she's programmed to, it's that she'd much rather go to the kitchen where the food might be. Pig ass fucking robot bitch. Anyways, if she does go through the vent, she'll make a sound cue, and all you have to do is use your monitor to seal the vent until you hear her leave. But hey, not so bad. Pretty easy to understand overall. With that, we complete night 1 and can move on to night 2. But of course, before we can start night 2, we have a pre-night phone call to download. Fuck actually talking about the minigame part, it's literally identical to night 1, and the remainder of the nights are as well. But we can of course talk about the lore we can read during it. Finally got the job here at this new Freddy's location. I can't wait to start tinkering around with those animatronic models. They're supposed to have this new advanced free roam mode? Crazy technology. This message seems to be coming from a possible new hire technician designed to work on programming the characters. In the night 1 phone call, the phone guy mentions that the characters were specifically programmed to walk around at night to stretch their legs. So maybe this guy is the guy that chose to make that decision, even though there's literally no need for it whatsoever. This guy just seems like the type to get way too excited over his interests. He probably has a pony jar, I'm just saying. Night 2 begins with the phone guy talking literally as long as he fucking can. This phone call lasts until 2:50 a.m. So that's just awesome. Anyways, who gets introduced on this night? Well, slow your roll, fucker. There's 2 things about the cameras I want to talk about first. The first is that during this phone call, the phone guy mentions that William disabled the backstage camera. However, when you go to check the backstage camera, you'll see that it works perfectly fine. So I don't know what that guy was talking about. The second thing is that Bonnie destroyed the kitchen camera, so you're stuck listening to be able to tell if Chica is there or not. Hooray! I love life. That's a lie, I don't. Anyways, back to who gets introduced on this night. Well, guess what? It's nobody. Nobody is introduced on this night. I'm fairly certain that night 2 is when Bonnie and Chica are allowed to start using their second form of attack. Bonnie's right hall attack and Chica's vent attack. Maybe. I'm not really sure exactly why nothing new is introduced here, if I'm being honest, but that's what happens. Anyways, let's move on to night 3. Maybe something new will be added there. Night 3, phone guy only talks until 1:53 a.m. So hey, I guess that's progress. Night 3 does actually introduce something new, but before we talk about who it is, I want to mention something the phone guy brings up. He says that William ordered 2 vintage animatronics, a type of animatronic that they don't make anymore, from an old location. Now, I'm not a genius, but it also doesn't take a genius to figure out that he's undoubtedly talking about Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. He says they won't need any repairs, so that means they're working exactly as intended and there shouldn't be any problems with them at all, right? Anyways, night 3 introduces Freddy, and a mechanic that makes me want to stick a push pin in my testicle, pull it out, and slowly squeeze all of the various juices out of it. Freddy stays on stage for a majority of the night. However, whenever he damn well pleases, he will choose to leave with a sound cue. When he does, you will have to find him on the fucking cameras as he teleports to a random one. God damn, guys, I'm getting real sick of this mechanic, you know that? Anyways, luckily, Freddy can't go to literally any camera. He can only teleport to the backstage camera, the arcade camera, the dining hall camera, the restroom camera, or the entrance camera. Basically all the fucking cameras. Once you find which camera Freddy went to, all you have to do is use a camera flash to send him back to the main stage. I know I haven't talked about the camera flash yet, but this is really the only occasion you ever use it. So I thought, why bring it up earlier? Anyways, let's move on. You don't need to hear me explain my thought process for pacing while I script. Let's continue. Actually, now that I say let's continue, I'm noticing that's the only thing night 3 introduces, so we should probably move on to night 4. But hold up! After beating night 3, we actually get a post-night 8-bit minigame. And this is actually the only post-night 8-bit minigame throughout the whole game. In this minigame, we play as William inside the restaurant. Upon trying to leave the room, we're told to get what we need. After what took me probably 5 fucking minutes of trial and error, I finally found out that you need to interact with this very obvious looking present on this table. You might be wondering how it took me 5 minutes to figure that out, and that's because I tried it right away, but nothing happened. The hitboxes in this minigame are some of the most retarded, inconsistent shit I've ever seen. If I had to pick a least favorite moment from this entire game, it would undoubtedly be playing this minigame. Anyways, after opening the gift box, we get a knife and can exit the back room. Outside of it, we find a crying child asking for his parents. We tell him we know where his parents are, and upon following us to the back room, we fucking murder him, smiling the entire time. What if I just don't? Can I just choose to like not do that? Maybe that's a crazy ask. Okay, I have to. Damn! Based. Based. Everybody, it's based. Based and Riz. Based and Riz, bro. Anyways, on to night 4. Night 4 has the phone guy relapse and completely break all of his progress he's made so far as he yaps until fucking 4:06 a.m. Jesus Christ, bro. There cannot be that much to talk about. And in truth, there really isn't. 80% of his phone calls are made up of awkwardly laughing at the unfunniest joke you've ever heard really slowly, and then pretending like the joke he said he didn't even say. Interesting.
Let's just say the camera now has a new perspective on the floor tiles.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Phone guy is a character for sure in this game. Anyways, what's introduced? Night 4 introduces one new threat, that being Foxy. The final threat this game introduces, actually. And if you know my videos, you know I'm fucking lying and we're gonna introduce some more later, but fuck you. Foxy is probably my favorite character in this entire game, having his attack act as sort of a minigame reminiscent of Five Nights at Candy's 3. Very vaguely. Foxy will slowly appear out from behind his curtains, which, in all honesty, these Foxy frames are probably the creepiest frames throughout the entirety of this game, if I'm being honest. They're not like literally scary, but the positions he's in, mixed with how large he is, just makes him feel very uncomfortable. Anyways, how does he work? After he leaves Pirate's Cove, you will be able to hear him running towards either your left door or your right door, and very intense music will start playing like it's a fucking boss fight, which I think is really cool. If he runs towards your left door, all you have to do is close the door until you hear him bang on it. If he runs to the right door, all you have to do is hold your light on his face until he runs away. Where this becomes slightly reminiscent of Candy's 3 is that he will move around and attack multiple times, going back and forth between the two doors as many times as he'd like. Is it hard? No, and in fact, literally every other character pauses while Foxy is attacking you. So that's very RNG considerate. Thank you guys greatly. But yeah, that's about it. Pretty fun character overall. Gets your blood pumping a bit, especially when you hear the music that starts to play alongside it. But anyways, on to night 5. I lied. I have one other thing I want to talk about first. During the night 4 phone call, the phone guy mentions that one of the animatronics they were shipping arrived early and was like nothing that was written down to be shipped. A single endoskeleton with a weird model they've never seen before and very sharp fingers. They say they're leaving it in the safe room for now until they know what to do with it. First of all, I should mention that the safe room is a camera that you have never been able to access since the start of the game. The second thing to mention is that I'm not like an expert, and I'm really bad when it comes to the official FNAF lore, like criminally terrible, and if I'm being honest, I actually don't even like the official FNAF lore, and I haven't since Pizzeria Simulator. But that endoskeleton sounds a lot like the Mimic to me. Maybe I'm just a bit nutty, but I bet I'm not. 6 a.m., bro, let's do it. Easy peasy lemon dick.
This is Henry Emily, the founder and, for better or worse, the sole person responsible for this place's continued existence.
Oh my god, it's the fucking Mimic. So yeah, after beating night 4, we get a scrap minigame with what I can only imagine is the Mimic. And of course, this minigame works exactly how the minigames in Pizzeria Simulator work. Play some weird ass sounds, document results. Watch the fucker across the table move in ways you'd really prefer it doesn't. You know, FNAF shit. Shit we're all used to at this point. But after you get jump scared by the Mimic, we can talk about the pre-night 5 minigame. Dexter, you've already said these don't change. Well, you're right. It really doesn't change from the other 4 we've done. However, on this night, we also get access to the admin panel where we can actually enable the safe room camera's access. Oh yeah, and we also see M2 plans that are redacted, I'm pretty sure being references to the Mimic, and Charlotte being redacted too. Dead kid stuff, who cares? I want to see this camera, bro. Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that one bit, I can tell you what. Well, we're gonna talk about those guys a bit later. For now, let's just talk about Night 5. Night 5 is pretty boring overall, being a harder version of Night 4. That is, until you beat it. That's when something I wasn't expecting to happen at all happened.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you like this, but I'm afraid your time is up. Your curiosity and your need for answers are what first brought you here. And now, they have become your undoing. Because all those who enter this place are doomed to never leave. There are monsters who steal others' voices, monsters who steal others' souls. And then, there is you, the one who craved to learn more than he should, and more than he ever will. You will not find the answers you seek here, only your ruin. But while your sacrifice will be forgotten, the impact it will have will not, as the wounds of the past left to fester can finally heal. There will be no more suffering, no more loss, only peace. Peace and a forgotten tomb sealed away, never to be opened again. It all ends tonight. End communication.
Holy shit, we're getting a Golden Freddy boss fight, and it actually has the most badass intense boss music I've ever heard in my fucking life. Golden Freddy isn't very complicated, but he does attack you very quickly, so you'll have to stay on your toes. And of course, he has several attack methods at his disposal, which are all inspired by the attacks of the other characters in typical boss night fight fashion. His first attack has him appear at your right door. All you have to do is hold your light on him until he goes away. His other attack has him pull a Freddy and have you find him on the cameras. However, this one actually proves to be easier than Freddy is, since he actually only appears on 2 cameras, the back room and the entrance. And that's actually it. Dxtr, that's it? That's all the final boss of this game has to offer? Really? Hey, shut the fuck up. Look at how much time is left in this video. We're not done yet, bro. Sit the fuck down. About 30 seconds into the night is when you'll notice that all the other characters are still active. What the fuck? This is why Golden Freddy only has 2 attacks, because he's in addition to everything else you've already gotten used to, mixed with the incredibly intense music, the fire all over your screen, the shit in my britches. This serves to be one of the coolest boss fight nights I've ever seen in a FNAF game. It's so fun.
Good morning. I am Ethan Caldwell. We're coming to you with breaking news. A catastrophic fire has reduced a newly reopened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza to ashes in what officials are calling a nightmare scenario. Flames tore through the building just after 7 a.m., with witnesses reporting smoke so thick it blotted out the morning sun. Firefighters arrived, but the inferno had already consumed the entire structure. Authorities confirm all employees escaped unharmed, and thankfully, no customers were inside at the time. However, in a grim twist, investigators have revealed 2 disturbing details. First, the restaurant's infamous animatronic characters, along the centerpiece of the franchise, were completely destroyed in the blaze. And second, even more unsettling, there was an intruder inside when the fire broke out. Security footage recovered from an external camera shows an unidentified individual entering the building in the middle of the night. Their motives remain unknown. What is certain, however, is that they never made it out. Police have not yet released a description, but sources close to the investigation say the manner of death was, unquote, horrific. This tragedy only deepens the dark legacy of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. After years of controversy, bizarre incidents, and persistent rumors of hauntings, many are asking, was this arson, an accident, or something far more unnatural and sinister? We'll continue to follow the story shortly for Channel 7 News. Stay tuned.
To our beloved Fazbear family. At Fazbear Entertainment, our top priority has always been delivering safe, wholesome, and unforgettable experiences for families across our establishment. In light of the recent isolated events at one of our locations, we want to take this opportunity to reassure our loyal fans that every possible measure is being taken to ensure such thing will not happen again. While the exact circumstances surrounding the incident remain under internal review, preliminary findings suggest it was caused by absolutely nothing related to prior complaints or unresolved maintenance issues. Our team is working closely with third-party investigators to determine the best path forward. We'd also like to clarify that reports of unusual activity prior to the event, including alleged animatronic malfunctions, unexplained power surges, are entirely unfounded and likely the result of overactive imaginations. Rest assured, all our animatronic performers are completely harmless and incapable of independent movement outside of their pre-programmed routines. Any footage suggesting otherwise is clearly doctored or taken out of context. As we look toward the future, Fazbear Entertainment is excited to announce a temporary pause on operations at the affected location while we conduct routine modernization efforts. We remain fully committed to reopening when the time is right. Thank you for your unwavering trust. Warm regards, Fazbear Entertainment Public Relations Team. Creating smiles, no matter what. Afterwards, we get yet another chat with Old Man Consequences. We obviously died in that fire on night 5, but the old man asks us what we would do if we could go to a timeline where the fire didn't occur. A timeline where William failed. The old man wants to show us what would happen, and show us he does, as next we're set to take on the Golden Ones. But before we do, we get a black gift box. Inside, a note which reads, "Every ripple is a year you can't take back." Night 6 has us take on Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, with all of the other characters disassembled in the back room. This night is easily the most challenging night throughout the entire game. Let's talk about why. Let's start by talking about Spring Bonnie, who has 2 forms of attack. The first has him attack your left door exactly like Bonnie. Same rules apply here, just close the door. However, it's a much better option to just not even let him get to your door in the first place. The way you do so is very easy. Whenever you flash Spring Bonnie on your cameras, he will go back to the stage. So you're obviously going to want to do that a lot. What about his second attack? Well, that would have him use the vents, which, by the way, unlike fat ass, fuck ass, dumb ass, bitch ass, dunce ass, stupid ass, dumb ass Chica, he will actually do very frequently, and he is incredibly fast in them. The moment you hear his vent sound cue, you need to drop whatever you're doing and focus on that goddamn vent, because he will rail you in your ass if you don't. But what about Fredbear? Honestly, he's easier than Spring Bonnie in every way, but he does cause 2 major annoyances in combination with Spring Bonnie. Fredbear tries to attack your right door, just like Bonnie. When he enters, play the alarm and he'll leave. However, when the alarm is playing, Spring Bonnie actually moves at a faster rate, which is just fucking awful. Also, it's probably a good idea to mention that Fredbear also attacks fast as shit. And actually, both of their aggression increases throughout the night. So near the end, you'll probably have Fredbear in your office all the fucking time. Hooray. But what about the other super annoying thing that Fredbear does? Well, Fredbear doesn't like being flashed and will disable any camera that you do flash with him on it, requiring you to reboot, which takes forever. The problem? Well, it's common for Spring Bonnie and Fredbear to appear on the same camera at the same time. And with how quickly Spring Bonnie moves, it's likely that the muscle memory to flash immediately will be built quickly. So if you're anything like me, you were accidentally flashing Fredbear a lot. And if you're really retarded like me, you'd forget that the camera's being disabled does not mean the night is over, and every single time you accidentally flashed Fredbear, instead of just rebooting, you instead chose to restart the night every single time. I'm not the brightest person, guys, okay? I try my best over here. These streets are hard. Even though these 2 characters together don't have many ways of killing you, this night is still incredibly stressful, mainly with just how fast these 2 get in the final hour. However, something about this night, and this entire game in fact, is that I honestly never once felt like RNG was a factor at all. And that's rare. I play FNAF games for a living, so I see a lot of them. And never once have I played a game that really felt like there was no RNG at all. And I honestly think that's one of the coolest things, ever. But if you can keep your composure long enough, you'll complete the night and get to watch this super awesome tape.
Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike, where fantasy and fun come to life. Our establishment is a place where fun and safety go hand in hand. Part of what makes our family-friendly experience so special are the animatronics that entertain our guests. To ensure they continue to operate smoothly and safely, proper cleaning and maintenance is essential. And that's where you come in, our dear employee. Without you, none of this would be ever possible. In this tape, we will guide you through the process of cleaning our beloved animatronics. It is important to follow these steps carefully and thoroughly to keep our characters in tip-top shape and ensure everyone's safety.
How to clean the joints and the mechanisms.
First of all, you will need a soft brush, a mild cleaning solution, and a dry towel. Avoid using any harsh chemicals as they can damage the animatronic suit. Using said soft brush, carefully clean the joints and mechanical parts while avoiding any visible human remains.
Human remains, human remains, human remains.
And once you finish cleaning, give yourself a pat on the back and a complimentary slice of pizza and climb into the animatronic. This really makes sure that it's ready to entertain our guests again. And thank you so much for being a part of Fazbear Entertainment. Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for any injury, loss of a child, or loss of a head that may occur on our premises. By entering our establishment, you agree that Fazbear Entertainment is not liable for any damages, accidents, or unfortunate incidents that may arise.
While I do find it incredibly unfortunate that I had to look at fat shit toy Freddy for a majority of this tape, we do see some pretty rizzy stuff, like a redacted dead child probably, and of course the Golden Freddy scene, where he mentions there's a girl inside of him, most likely referring to the fact that there are two souls caught inside of the Golden Freddy suit. Something about this game that I really like is that there's so much additional, non-repetitive things added to it. The random 8-bit minigame, this tape, the salvage minigame, none of it was needed, but I think it's such a nice touch that it was chosen to be added anyways. After the tape, we get one final chat with Old Man Consequences. He asks if we wish to go back, if we're finally satisfied. He mentions how boring the present is and asks if we enjoyed the legacy. Nice name drop, by the way. There's also like so much other bullshit he says in this final cutscene. I'm gonna be real, guys. I just cannot be fucked to try and understand it. There's so much random symbolic shit about like the lake being a mirror and being pulled out when you're choking from drowning in the lake, but the lake is a mirror, so what the fuck? I hate metaphors and I don't want the headache. I'm sure whatever this means is super deep and cool, but I'm not about to spend the next 5 hours writing a fucking MLA format essay trying to decipher it. Not my forte, thank you. But with that, that's all Five Nights at Freddy's Legacy has to offer. Overall, I think this game is probably my favorite reimagining of the original FNAF game that I've ever played. Each character feels super unique, and even the typical boring characters have multiple ways to attack you, which keeps them interesting the whole time. There's so much extra things added throughout the game to keep the loop exciting. The game looks amazing, the story is intriguing and mysterious, which I know a lot of people really like, and I would definitely recommend you go and give it a try. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this game is just trying to be another generic FNAF Plus? Let me know in the comments below. In my Night Watch at Freddy's video, I asked you guys what your favorite Avocado Dreams game was and why, and my favorite answer was everyone who unanimously agreed that it was Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. Don't really know what I was expecting there. I should have known that was going to be the answer. As I continue to make videos talking about Five Nights at Freddy's games, as each week goes by, I grow more and more nervous that I will eventually run out of interesting games to talk about. Obviously, the next choice would be to start talking about random horror games until new FNAF titles are released. However, recently I found a FNAF fan game I have never heard of before. A game so interesting I couldn't help but get sucked right into it. The game we'll be talking about today is Night Watch at Freddy's, a FNAF fan game that pretends to be an official demo of the original Five Nights at Freddy's games, but is really hiding some incredibly dark secrets. Stick around because you're not going to want to miss out on this one. This is truly one of the most interesting FNAF games I will ever talk about on this channel. So sit back, relax, and join me today as we dive into the depraved world of Night Watch at Freddy's. Night Watch at Freddy's does not begin in the way a normal FNAF game typically begins. I've actually never seen any FNAF game start in the same way that Night Watch at Freddy's does. Upon pressing start, we're greeted to the night screen, where you can already see something interesting. You have the classic live system that was originally supposed to be in the first Five Nights at Freddy's. But let's pause for a second and back way the fuck up. Take a look at this title screen. Do you notice anything strange? Well, if you said that the creator of the game's name looks a bit weird, then you'd be correct. It says the creator's name is Scott Cawthorn, clearly an alternate version of Scott Cawthon. But that's not where it ends. Right next to the name, we can see the year 2014. Spoiler alert, this game was released in 2025. Let's cut to the chase of why I wanted to talk about this game, as clearly there's something weird going on. Night Watch at Freddy's explores an alternate timeline where the original Five Nights at Freddy's game took a significant turn from what we know them as today. Wow, I hear you say. That's a super interesting idea for a FNAF game. Tell me, who could come up with something as interesting as that? Well, the answer to that question is pretty damn cool. This game's lead director is Avocado Dreams, the same person who's responsible for Graveyard Shift at Freddy's and the remnants of Tubbyland, both of which I've covered on this channel, and you should definitely go check out those videos after this one. But for now, let's continue. Knowing that this game is supposed to be a demo for what the first official FNAF game was intended to be. Of course, since this is an alternate timeline of the official FNAF games, in this alternate universe, Scott actually did end up including the live system that was left out of the official games. And you'll notice plenty more details just like this. For example, there's actually a fake alternate version of the classic Scott Games website, Scott Productions. The team responsible for this game really went all out. This is one of the coolest experiences I've ever seen in my entire time working on FNAF stuff. Before we load into the office, we get to see a developer note talking about Night 1. Keep in mind, Night Watch at Freddy's is pretending to be a demo, so notes like these are pretty common. Welcome to Night Watch at Freddy's, or at least the prototype of it. Some things are still subject to change. For right now though, you can play through what's done of the game and get a feel for how it's going to end up. Night 1 begins, and we of course get a phone call from this game's phone guy. He gives the basic Night 1 spiel that we're all used to. However, he does mention how the breaker and power systems work. Of course, that's my job, so I'm going to be doing that instead. A few things you'll immediately notice about this game. The first, and in my opinion, biggest outlier is how the doors behave. You'll notice that they're already closed from the beginning of the night. You can open the doors and flash the hallways, and doing so increases your usage. Your light especially, but we'll talk about that more once we get into the characters. Moving on to your cameras, you'll notice another scrapped feature from the official games is present here, that being the original camera buttons, where they were originally intended to be circles that would project the direction they were actually facing in the building. Such a super small, cool detail, but if there's anything Avocado Dreams is good at, it's attention to detail. Only one animatronic is introduced on Night 1, that character being Bonnie. Of course, this is an alternative FNAF 1 after all, so keeping the overall order of the character introduction does make sense. Bonnie, as I'm sure you could have guessed, is pretty simple to deal with overall. Bonnie's goal is to get to your left door, exactly how he does in the original. However, the way you deal with him is different, and he also introduces a new mechanic in the form of points into the game. Once Bonnie reaches your left hallway, staring at him on the cameras will stall him. This will become integral once we start talking about another character that gets introduced. While you're stalling Bonnie, you will get 5 points around every 0.5 seconds. So the longer you watch him, the longer he doesn't move, and the more points you obtain. Something additional to note are your lives. If you are to lose all of them, you don't have to start all the way back on Night 1. Instead, your points will just get reset to 0. On top of that, after every completed night, you will gain 1 life. Anyways, back to talking about Bonnie. Once Bonnie reaches your door, you have to open it and hold your light on him until he goes away, which will happen pretty quickly, thankfully, because as I've said before, the lights will absolutely ramp up your breaker stress. Once Bonnie leaves, you'll want to close the door again. Oh my god, oh my fucking god, oh my fucking god, it runs. My chest, dude. Oh my god, don't do that ever again. Ding. No thanks. This mechanic does bring up an interesting and pretty scary point. The doors are closed by default, and if you don't open the door and flash Bonnie when he is there, he will jump scare you. So that brings up the terrifying realization. Bonnie is strong enough to open the door if he really wanted to. Put yourself in the shoes of the night guard for a second. If that doesn't scare the absolute piss and shit out of you, I don't know what will. But aside from that, that's all Bonnie does. Something additional I do want to point out about Bonnie is how fucked up and gross he looks. Why are his ears down like that? Tell me that's not disgusting. Dogs put their ears down when they know they did something bad, and cats put their ears down when they're about to do something bad. So what the hell does a bunny with its ears down mean? That I'm about to get back shots? Probably, and I don't want that. Nice job getting past the first night. Still wondering what I should do with that raccoon. If anyone has any ideas, please let me know. Night 2's phone call just explains one of the new characters. Additionally, Phone Guy says he's going to drop the script the company wants him to read and instead just tell some stories during the phone calls, which he doesn't end up doing this time around. However, towards the end of the call, his dog runs into a fucking door like a moron, and then he ends the call to go take it for a walk. I think that's supposed to be a hint for one of the characters this night introduces, because I have no idea what else that could be. Like the official FNAF 1, Night 2 introduces 2 new threats, Foxy and Chica. Let's go over Chica first, since she's pretty much just Bonnie with a small difference. She will do the same thing that Bonnie does, except she'll go to the right door instead. Same thing goes. Staring at her in the right hall will stall her, and while you stall her, you'll gain points. However, the difference with Chica is how you deal with her once she reaches your door. You still have to open it, but instead of holding the light on her, you have to flash your light at her. Now, come in real close and let me give you a little tip about clicking on things in almost any Click Team Fusion game. The way Click Team seems to register clicks can be delayed depending on your mouse position. I actually first noticed this during my playthrough of Tyke & Sons Lumber Co. a few months ago. If you keep your mouse stationary and click on something really fast, Click Team will not register every click you make. However, if you click, move your mouse slightly really fast, and then click again, then it will register every click. This is exactly how you can get Chica to go away really fast. If you jitter click your mouse and whip around the cursor in a small enough area over the lever, you will flash the light really fast, making Chica leave faster. Fun fact, you can also use this clicking method to ring the bell on your desk really fast and make your grandma's tinnitus act up. But you didn't hear that from me. The other character this night introduces is Foxy, who for some reason is gender swapped in this game. Not really sure on that decision. Maybe Foxy was going to be a girl in the official games, but Scott changed it, and this game is drawing from that. Or who knows, maybe Avocado Dreams just wanted a female Foxy. Either way, it's not really important. Foxy almost works the same way she does in the original. She still has multiple phases she will go through before charging at your office. However, I'm unsure if being on the camera stalls her this time around. After she gets to her final phase and disappears to charge at your office, you'll have to check Pirate's Cove and look at her sign to see which door she's charging at, since yes, she can attack both. Once you know which door she's going to attack, all you have to do is open that door and wait for her to arrive. She'll lean in and yell at you before running back to her cove. From there, you can just close the door and easy peasy lemon dick, she's been dealt with. Keeping this one short since I haven't really been feeling the best lately. The more I work on this project, the more I feel like it's not aligning with what I've learned over the years. The overall themes are just... I guess it's just something I'll have to get used to. Hopefully it won't impact development too much. Also, I keep getting questions on how to deal with the golden Freddy. The statue in the entrance doesn't move. There's not even any coding for it to move. I don't understand what you all are talking about. Night 3's phone call is an interesting one. It begins with the phone guy telling us about his dog running into the door. Idiot ass dog. Cats are way better anyways. He starts talking about the new character, a puppet, and about how it really creeps him out. You can tell by the sound in his voice that he really doesn't like this thing.
Dog. It freaks me out.
He explains how to deal with it and abruptly ends the call by yelling at us to not let it out of our sight. So, As I'm sure you could have guessed, the new threat on this night is the puppet, which I'm sure you already knew was not in the original FNAF 1. So, how is this character going to work? Well, it's probably one of the most nerve-wracking, stressful, and anxiety-inducing characters in the entire game. Occasionally, you will hear a sound cue, one that I can't really describe with words. It's really weird. Anyways, when you hear it, the puppet will appear on one of 4 cameras at the bottom of the map at random. It will either be in the bathroom, the show stage, the party room, or the kitchen. You will have to find which 4 of these cameras it's on and hold the stop button like a music box to make it go away. If you don't do this in time, the puppet is going to plow on that pussy. Jesus Christ, what is wrong with me, bro? Oh my God. Put me in a fucking cage, dude. Overall, it doesn't add anything too crazy to the mix so far. Your strategy at this point should be watching Foxy and the 2 halls, staring at Bonnie or Chica to desync the 2 from attacking at the same time, and whenever you hear the sound cue, go deal with the puppet. Overall, not too bad, but night 4 is when things really start to ramp up. This is getting a bit crazy. I thought adding more depth would increase the replayability, but it's honestly overwhelming. Maybe I'll just change it so Freddy only appears during the power outage, but that might be a bit lame. Time will tell, I guess. I'm worried that having so many different things to do might be too much. Also, added the ability to ring the bell on the desk. Thank Lane for that idea. Night 4's phone call gets pretty serious. The phone guy explains that the animatronics are not acting right at all, going places they shouldn't be going, snapping their jaws shut, which they shouldn't even be programmed to do. He mentions Freddy specifically, and how one time before showtime, they found him in the garage of the building, staring at the main power breaker. So yeah, that sounds like bad news bears. Get it? Bears? Like Freddy because he's yeah, you get it. Night 4 introduces this game's final threat. Obviously, it's Freddy. And Freddy ties this game's loop together by single-handedly being the most stressful character in the entire game and making every other character feel 10 times more stressful than they already were. Just like the puppet, Freddy will occasionally laugh. When he does, that signifies that he has moved cameras. Freddy can move between only 5 cameras, and getting to your office is not a concern of his. When he moves off the show stage, he will either go to the bathrooms, the party room, the back room, or the kitchen. If at any point you hear him move and you can't find him on any 4 of those cameras, then that means he's moved to the garage. The garage camera, of course, has no video feed. So the only way to know for sure if Freddy is in there is by checking the 4 other possible cameras he can be in. When you know he's in the garage, you will be able to use the garage's camera scanner. The scanner will then shock the absolute living shit out of him and make him piss off. If you don't shock him fast enough, he will punch the shit out of your breaker and you will completely lose power. So there you go. There is every single character at the same time. Can you see how stressful this could be? Having to constantly watch Foxy, having to balance stalling Bonnie and Chica, balancing your power usage and your camera usage and the power aids that will happen when you use your lights, and on top of that, having 2 characters that will require you to, at random, play a stupid fucking find them on the camera mechanic game. While having one of those bullshit characters also mixing in a small music box mechanic at the same time. Does that sound a little bit overwhelming? If you said yes, that's because it kind of is. But in all honesty, I love this gameplay loop. Sure, I'm not a fan of the find them on the camera mechanics at all, but somehow this game manages to make every single action you do feel satisfying. It's really hard to put into words, and I would highly recommend you check this game out for yourself, or ideally watch my full playthrough over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Link in the description. Nothing really to mention here. I'm just so unsure of everything revolving around this project right now. The ideas are definitely there. I'm proud of the models, the atmospheres in place, but something still feels so off. I'm really unsure if people will enjoy this, especially with how grim the story is. When I explained the story to my mom, she went pale and just asked me, "What are you thinking?" Just a few weeks ago, I'd have had the answer. Now I'm not so sure. Is this really something anyone would want? Would a story like this really be part of his plan for me? I don't know. I guess it just really goes to show I'm out of my depth completely. There's one more thing I want to try. There's only one way to find out if I'll be satisfied with it though. Night 5 introduces nothing new, just being a harder version of Night 4. But it's clear from the developer notes that the dev is really starting to doubt themselves. And trust me, the phone guy is having a mental breakdown as well.
Hey, glad to hear that you're alright. I was worried since, you see, there's sort of something I've been wanting to tell you, and it's kinda... Okay, no, I can't do this anymore, dude. Everything's gone wrong, and I think I know why. On your first night, I told you about a birthday party that went bad way back, yeah? I was keeping quiet on the details. It's a sensitive subject around here, but during the party, the animatronics started going crazy. Kind of like they've been recently, and before anyone knew what happened, the power went out. Kids were screaming, parents were running around, and we were doing everything we could to get the lights back on. But by the time we did, the birthday boy was gone. We couldn't find him anywhere, and no power meant no cameras, so we didn't have any leads. Not until our night guard didn't clock in for his shift. He hadn't missed a single shift before then, and he would have known exactly how the camera systems worked, so people filled in the blanks. Started a manhunt. Management tried to forget the whole thing, but the town sure didn't. And now it's looking like it's only gonna get worse. I swear I'm seeing things that aren't there, hearing sounds in the walls, and that puppet thing keeps vanishing. I don't know why the animatronics are moving, but all of this, there's only one explanation I can think of. That kid's still here, like his ghost or something. I think it's responsible for everything that's happened since then. And deep down, maybe you're thinking the same thing. That's the only reason I can think of for why you keep coming back. Maybe you know something I don't, but here's the facts, man. This place isn't safe anymore. I'm taking my last paycheck and getting out of here. I'd suggest you do the same, but it seems you're pretty dead set on whatever it is you're trying to do. But I'm sorry I wasn't completely honest with you. No one else believed me, and look, I can't do much to make it up to you, but I know this place that serves some good drinks, and the food's pretty great. Had no animatronics either. Just, give me a call tomorrow if you're up for it. My treat, man. It's the least I could do. Good luck.
After completing Night 5, we get our paycheck as usual. But of course, if you've ever seen any FNAF game in your entire life before, then you'd know we're not quite done yet. Going back to the title screen, we'll see we've unlocked the Overtime Night. And surprisingly, it is not just a harder version of Night 5. Overtime Night starts with a phone call, not from the phone guy we've been hearing so far. If you remember, he said he was quitting, and exactly that he did. The phone call we get tonight is from a woman, talking about how employees have been spreading rumors about the animatronics and monsters, all of which we know is true. She says that all employees who have been spreading these rumors will be docked pay, which I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure that's illegal. And with that, Overtime Night begins. Let's just start by getting one thing out of the way. This night is stressful. However, it's really fun. The entire game is really fun. When I first heard this game was made by Avocado Dreams, I was really scared it was going to be incredibly fucking hard like Graveyard Shift and Remnants of Tubbyland. But to my surprise, while yes, this game definitely isn't easy, there is very little RNG that is overwhelming, and I was actually able to complete this night. Overtime Night introduces one final threat, which this game calls Jailbird. Jailbird is not at all a hard threat to deal with. I feel like she serves more as a nuisance character that you need to spend time on more than a threat that will actually get you killed. Editor, don't you dare think about playing the clip where I died to her. You know full well I died there because I didn't fully understand how she worked yet. Don't even start with me, Buster. You're on thin ice, bitch! Ooh! Ooh! What the fuck was that thing? Whoa, whoa, what the hell was that thing? Jailbird will wander around your cameras in an attempt to get to your garage. When she gets to the garage, she'll start to open the garage's door. When it opens, she will, for some reason, be at the front door to your office, which up until this point has never been used. If you take a look at the map, I'm not entirely sure how her opening up the garage door makes her end up here. That doesn't make much sense to me, and is why I didn't fully understand her at first. Editor. Piece of shit! When you know she's behind that door, you will have to quickly spam open and close your camera. This will make her slowly emerge from behind the door and eventually leave your office. How does this make sense whatsoever? I have no idea. Don't question it. Boss character, hooray, hooray, weird shit. This night is very fast-paced, but because of the way all of the mechanics in this game work together, it serves to be an incredibly satisfying and enjoyable night overall. The difficulty is definitely high, but it is in no way overwhelming like some of Avocado Dream's other games, which I, as someone who is dog shit at FNAF games, can really appreciate. Of course, you also have your custom night, but on top of that, after beating overtime, you get access to aggressive mode, an optional setting you can use to play through the entire game again with all of the characters having movement opportunities more often. I, for obvious reasons, did not try to complete this mode. However, I know there are some people crazy enough to complete it, and I congratulate all of you who were able to, because watching playthroughs of aggressive mode is actually insane. And of course, it wouldn't be a FNAF game without some secrets and Easter eggs, so we might as well cover those as well, right? The first Easter egg is a Golden Freddy Easter egg. I'm not totally sure how it's pulled off, but just taking a look at the video I found, it seems like you need to flip your camera up and down a few times, then sit on the show stage camera. Golden Freddy should start reciting a Bible verse. Interestingly enough, the Bible verse he's saying is about Hebrews who created a golden calf to worship right before they were freed by God, Exodus 32:31. Afterwards, when you pull the camera down, you'll get this jump scare. In one of the earlier dev notes, the developer mentions a raccoon character that they didn't know what to do with. So during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I thought the final character in the overtime night was going to be this raccoon, but obviously I was wrong. However, there is a chance you can find these renders of him throughout the game. But as far as I'm aware, that's all Night Watch at Freddy's has to offer. I'm pretty confident that we will be getting more games in this series, since it seems the developers' dive into turmoil is only just beginning. And you better believe I'll be around when and if those sequels or prequels come out. Overall, I think Night Watch at Freddy's has become my favorite Avocado Dreams fan project. And no, that's not just because it was the only one I've been able to beat. I think the idea for the story is incredibly unique. The character designs are great, the game mechanics are literally amazing, and every character works together so well. And of course, it doesn't rely too much on RNG. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this is easily the worst fan game Avocado Dreams has ever worked on? Let me know in the comments below. In my FNAF 2 Reimagined video, I asked you guys what official FNAF game you'd want to see reimagined next, and my favorite answer was everybody who said FNAF 3. FNAF 3 is easily my least favorite official Click Team FNAF game, and I would want nothing more than to see it remade and have it be amazing. When you think of the typical Five Nights at Freddy's game formula, what usually comes to mind? Well, probably being stuck in one spot, unable to move, having characters bombard your doors, and only having a small amount of tools you can use to defend yourself. Occasionally, we'll find a fan game that introduces an interesting new mechanic. And of course, every now and then we find a free roam FNAF game that really, most of the time, feels like its own game that just uses FNAF characters. The game we'll be talking about today takes the FNAF formula and completely flips it on its head, giving you the opportunity to decide how long the nights are and even introducing useful upgrades along the way. The game we'll be talking about today is Teerland, a game I've been asked to talk about quite a few times, and a game I actually intended on covering sooner, but due to a bunch of other interesting fan games I've wanted to talk about, I've just been pushing this video off. But today, here we are to talk about it, so strap in and join me as we dive into the depraved world of Teerland. Teerland begins by putting us in the shoes of David Artell. Years back, us and our brother opened an amusement park called Teerland. After a few years of running, the park shut down and Teal and David went their own separate ways. Years after the shutdown, we get an unexpected call from Teal. All he tells us is to find him at the park. So, not knowing what's going on, we make our way back to Teerland, and this is where the fun can truly begin. Entering the park, we walk around and explore a little, finding some lore pages and oh shit! The fuck was that? In typical horror media fashion, as the main character, I'm going to choose to completely ignore what I just saw and chalk it up to myself seeing things. Continuing to search around the park, we eventually find a pile of garbage bags that look very out of place. Moving them, we find a hidden trap door. So what better choice to make than opening it and climbing straight down blindly instead of, oh, I don't know, going back home to our family and sleeping like a normal person? Of course, climbing down a ladder in a FNAF game isn't as simple as it sounds. Instead, it's made into a minigame very reminiscent of the vent crawling section from Sister Location. Except this time around, there is actually a threat. Because yes, if you didn't know, you literally can't die in the vent section of Sister Location. That entire game is hot ass, and if you'd like to hear me talk about how bad it is in another video, let me know in the comments below. As we climb down the ladder, the first threat of this game is introduced. Teerland. As you climb down the ladder, Teerland can appear on either side. When he does, all you have to do is shine your flashlight at him and he'll go away. However, this game thought it would be really funny to make your flashlight have a startup time. So when you see Teerland, you'll kind of just have to awkwardly stare at him for 3 seconds while you wait for your flashlight to charge up and turn on, which just feels really goofy. So, now I have another question to ask you. How do you know a FNAF game is going to be really complicated before you even start? Well, in cases like Post Shift 2, it's walls of text explaining the mechanics that cause the game to feel so bloated it's not even fun. Well, what else? Let me tell you. There is quite literally nothing scarier than opening a FNAF game and seeing that there's a tutorial night. That's how you know the game you're about to play is going to have the most obtuse and random mechanics you've ever seen in your entire life, and Teerland is no different. So, now's the time I get to explain to you the several tools at our disposal in a way that is hopefully not mind-numbingly boring. But hold up guys, I want to take a little break here to tell you that this video is sponsored by me. For those of you who didn't know, I have channel memberships. I would never ask anyone to do this as I don't even have any interesting perks attached, but if you really enjoy what I do and would like to support me a little bit extra, that's a great way to do it. Also, if you'd like to actually get something for your money in return, I have a merch store with some designs I commissioned from a fan, the same fan who actually drew these new character PNGs. So if you'd like to have my silly little demon character on your clothes, then that's a great place to go do that. And hey, if enough people end up liking that stuff, I will 100% get some more created in the future, and maybe even commission some more fan artists for some uniqueness in art styles. You can find the link to that in the description of this video. Sorry for the interruption, let's talk about Teerland. To begin, there are 3 rooms that you can occupy: your office, the hallway, and the supplies room. Each does exactly what you'd probably expect. The office is where you'll do your major important operations, the supplies room is where you do important side objectives throughout the night, and the hallway connects those 2 rooms. Simple. To start, we need to understand how it is you actually complete a night in Teerland, because it's not as simple as most FNAF games tend to be. Teerland uses a task-based completion system rather than a time-based one, except, once again, Teerland chooses to do something different than most task-based completion systems. The goal of Teerland is to lure all of the animatronics in the building into a bunch of holding cells, and the way we do that is by taking control of another animatronic that's in the supply room. So the first thing you need to do each night is walk to the supply room and put the animatronic together. Its body parts can be found in the hallway and in the supply room itself, and if you want to hear something awesome, these body parts can apparently teleport at will, because you will commonly walk through the hallway, see nothing, walk into the supply room, see an arm, then walk back into the hallway and find a leg just chilling on the floor. Where did it come from? You tell me. Anyways, once you attach all 3 pieces to the robot, it will leave to roam the building. At this point, you can go back to your office and begin to control it. So, who is the first threat during the first hour of this game? Well, that would be Teerland himself. Really, since you won't often come into direct contact with the characters in this game, and you don't deal with them in a typical FNAF way, the way I'm going to choose to talk about these mechanics is going to be different than most of my videos. In order to lure Teerland, you have to get within a 1 tile's range of him. On your computer, you will see several map tiles, and about once every second you can move the Teerland robot you built from one tile to another. Throughout that night, Teerland will naturally move around the building, with the goal of making it to your office. By making Teerland get close to Teerland, a lure meter will start to increase. However, it's not just as simple as standing right next to him. Teerland has the ability to infect the lure, meaning that if you make the lure stand in one spot right next to Teerland for too long, he will infect it. So all you really have to do is make sure you move back and forth while trying to lure him. If Teerland does infect your lure, you'll have to go back to the supply room and hack the firewall of the robot, I think. I don't really know what it is we're doing, I'll be honest. Basically, when the lure is infected, go to the supply room and open up your firewall. Inside, there will be a list of files with one of them infected. You can tell which one is infected because it will have the prefix Zanny_. All you have to do is click on it and boom, you'll be able to control the lure again. Anyways, back to luring. Once Teerland's lure meter is completely full, he will begin to chase your lure. This is when you need to get Teerland to one of the holding cells and lock him inside. Once you've done that, you can safely check off your to-do list and end the hour. But before we can talk about ending the hour, we have a few more important things to talk about. The first of which being your health. No one character alone will be able to end your run in one jump scare. Each character has a certain damage stat, and they will deal that number of damage to you upon jump scaring you. Typically, it's 2 jump scares and it's game over. However, you do have a med kit inside the supply room, so if you ever get injured, just go there and do like the protagonist from Resident Evil and fix your injury with a bandage. So that brings up the question, how do the animatronics actually damage you if you're constantly moving them around? Great question. As I've already said, Teerland's main goal is to get to your office, so you'll commonly find him moving to the bottom of the map, as that is where the hallway to your office is located. If he gets to your hallway, your lure won't be able to reach him, and you'll have to defend yourself to make him enter the main room once again. You do not want to encounter Teerland in your hallway. So, if you suspect he's there, before you walk into the hallway, you can look through the keyhole of the door to your office. If he's in your hallway, you will see his eyes staring back at you. If this is the case, then you will need to quickly stop looking through the keyhole and wait until you hear Teerland leave. If you walk into the hallway or stare at him through the keyhole for too long, then he'll grip your hips and make you bounce on a crazy style. One last thing to note about Teerland is that he is the slowest character to lure, making him by far the most annoying character we'll deal with throughout the game.
With enough effort, you can take control of anything. An ability far more powerful than any other.
Now, before we continue on to the next hour, we need to talk about possibly the coolest thing that this game does. Teerland has upgrades that you can unlock and equip. Do these make sense from a story standpoint? No, not really. But is it cool nonetheless? Yes. Yes, it is. After each hour, you'll be able to access the perk menu. There are 6 perks for you to choose from. After completing an hour for the first time, you'll get a perk point, and you can get 2 additional perk points for completing the hard mode version of each hour, which, yes, by the way, each hour has a hard mode version for you to complete. There's no real use talking about them since nothing besides the difficulty really changes, but I will mention one additional thing they add. Every time you go to the computer, you'll have to type in a 4-digit code. It's annoying, that's about it. Anyways, back to the perks. You have 2 rank 1 perks and 4 rank 2 perks. Rank 1 perks cost 2 perk points each, and rank 2 perks cost 4 perk points each. So it'll be up to you to decide how you want to distribute your points. However, there is a clear answer as to which perks are the best. Let's start by looking at the rank 1 perks. The first adds a longer lure infection cooldown when you use the firewall, meaning that it will take longer for your lure to be able to be infected again. And the second rank 1 perk makes it easier to spot which text file in your firewall is infected. Considering it is incredibly easy already to tell which one is infected, it's safe to say that picking this perk is pretty useless. Moving on to the rank 2 perks. The first one really makes my ass quake because of how delectable it is, allowing the speed at which you unlock holding cell doors to increase. Opening the doors does take a considerable amount of time, so being able to do it faster is crucial. The second rank 2 perk just increases your max HP to 130. But generally speaking, if you're not a retard while you play the game, you shouldn't be getting damaged that often, so this perk is an easy skip. The third rank 2 perk increases the range at which your lure will attract the animatronics. This is quite literally so goddamn cock-sucking good I can't describe it to you. To not have to get super close to the characters in order to lure them will save you pretty much all chances you will have at getting your lure infected in the first place. And finally, the 4th rank 2 perk makes your lure move around the building faster, which is actually so yummy mashed potatoes in my belly, I couldn't help but buy this faster than your mom buys DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, and Postmates subscriptions. Now, moving on to hour 2, which introduces 2 new threats. Let's talk about the one that's a clone of Teerland first, Frill. Frill does pretty much the exact same thing as Teerland. You have to lure him into a holding cell and he can infect your lure. The only way he's different is how he goes about attacking your hallway. When Frill enters your hallway, he will quickly make his way to the door of whichever room you're in and make a noticeable sound cue. When he does, you'll have to look through the keyhole. Once he makes eye contact with you, he'll turn into a little piss baby and move back into the main room. What about the other threat? The one that isn't just an easier version of Teerland? Well, let me introduce you to Willow the Magician. Willow does not give a fuck about your lure, to put it bluntly. She will pile drive right towards your door with no hesitation. However, she is also probably the easiest threat to deal with in this entire game. When Willow enters your hallway, all you have to do is stare her down. Apparently, she's a little autistic and doesn't like eye contact. So all you have to do is make her incredibly uncomfortable in public situations where there are plenty of people around, yet somehow she still manages to feel unsafe because you're staring right at her. However, if you see her in the hallway and exit the hall or take too long to go into the hall, all of a sudden she'll start acting the way she was acting in the DMs and tear your ass to bits.
His machines have far greater potential than what they were made for, sitting in this facility, rotting away. I will put them back together.
Hour 3 introduces another copy and paste character. However, I don't feel like she's that big of an issue. The character in question being Tacy. Tacy is quite literally identical to Frill. She must be lured into a holding cell, can infect your lure, and is even dealt with in the hallway in the exact same way. The only major difference is that she's a lot quieter. She'll still make sound cues, but the chances of you actually hearing them are pretty low. This night does really start to bring into question how hard this game has the possibility of being. Since we obviously can't lure all 3 characters at the same time, it is very likely that at this point of the game we will pretty consistently have someone in our hallway. And with 2 of these characters requiring us to stare at them through a keyhole to deal with, it makes it a hell of a lot more likely that Willow will plow us in the ass. However, I do need to give Teerland credit where credit is due. Although this game may sound like it can be incredibly unfair, this is honestly one of the most enjoyable FNAF experiences I've ever had. Even at the few frustrating bits I had, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I still found myself excited to play the next hour, and even found myself really wanting to complete the hard mode versions of the night, both to unlock the points and perks, and because it's genuinely just a super fun gameplay loop. Don't mind if I do. Done. I'm just too fucking good. I'm just too fucking good. Wahoo. It's the exact same excitement I got when playing Juniors for the first time. And Juniors ended up being one of the longest running series on the Dxtr Black channel.
They were meant to be taken apart, modified, tampered with. He should have known. One day it would all be compromised.
Hour 4 introduces a brand new threat to the mix with a new mechanic we haven't seen yet, so strap in. The threat introduced on this night is Mischievous. He does not have to be lured, and like Willow, does not give a shit about it anyways. He will lurk around your halls and wait to attack. When he enters your hall, his music box will begin to play. When you hear his music box, you cannot leave the room you're currently in or he will force himself on you. And this guy is really ugly, and you don't want that. After his music box finishes playing, he will leave a little doll in the room opposite of the one you're already in. You will then have to quickly move into that other room, find the doll, and click on it before the doll decides to do a little dance on it. Friction shit. This of course brings up the obvious issue. We have a character that forces us to switch rooms very quickly, and with several characters attacking our hall that require us to wait and be patient for us to leave, this could very obviously pose a pretty big threat if we were to get some poor attack timings. Once again, really showing how difficult, annoying, and RNG based this game can be.
One more step. until the plan is complete. The clock is ticking.
Night 5 introduces nothing new. However, there is a very, very crucial mechanic I forgot to mention so far. Something that will make your dick hurt, because it certainly made mine hurt. Earlier in this game, a new mechanic was introduced, your generator, which adds a power system to the program you use to control your lure robot. On the map, you will be able to see where the generator is, and you'll also be able to see how much percentage it is at. You obviously don't want that meter to drop down to 0, so how do you fill it? Well, that's pretty simple. At the beginning of each hour, along with the generator, some fuel will spawn somewhere randomly on the map. And when the generator gets low, you'll have to use the lure to go get it and refill the generator. This isn't a hard thing to do by any means, but when you're also trying to juggle everything else that's going on, which, trust me, there is a lot of, this will very quickly become something you dread doing.
It is complete. I've fixed them. I have made them perfect. They are all together now. They are now one. It will lure the beast out of his cage.
Well, oh boy, that doesn't sound good. But I mean, what's the worst that could happen? It's not like they're gonna take every character we've seen so far and merge them into one giant terrifying abomination and throw us into a new game mode that we haven't seen so far and have us learn from scratch, right? Oh, word. Shit is snowing. What's going on here? Oh, shit. Something tells me it is most certainly not. Okay, what the hell did I just see? What the fuck is that? Okay, so shit. That's exactly what's happening. Well, what do we have in store for us this time? For some reason, we're in a fucking dank cave. Not really sure why, but we are. And on top of that, there's a computer down in this cave. Again, not really sure why, but we roll with it, I guess. The goal of this finale hour is to destroy what this game calls Deterrent, which, yes, is every single character we've seen so far merged into one giant terrifying abomination. The way we go about destroying this thing is actually pretty cool and does literally feel like a boss fight, unlike most FNAF games that introduce boss fights. To start, let's talk about how Deterrent attacks, as it's pretty simple. There are two entrances to the room you're in behind you. Occasionally, you'll be able to hear him approach you from behind, and when he does, all you have to do is whip around and hold your flashlight on him. Which, yes, by the way, does have a battery life, so that's fun. Anyways, now to how we beat him. On the computer, we can see 4 rooms. Each room has a generator in it. When you hold the generator down, it will start to charge up. When it reaches 100%, it will explode. I'm sure you can see where we're going with this. You'll be able to see the Deterrent moving around on the map. However, while you're charging a generator, for some reason, you go blind, which serves to make it more difficult to track Deterrent, but also just literally makes no sense from a gameplay standpoint. But regardless, once you have a generator almost full, you will need to open the door to the generator's room. This will make the Deterrent enter the room, but he won't stay in the room for very long, which is why you should already have the generator borderline completely charged by the time you invite him in. Obviously, once he's in, blow that bitch sky high and deal some damage. Then do this 3 more times, and congrats, you've won. Fucking moron, he did it 4 times! Ooh, what the hell? Where am I going? Oh. Yay! Hooray! Hooray! We fucking did it. Oh shit. What's gonna happen here? Oh damn. Oh. Oh, we climbing back out of this bitch. Hell yeah, we are. Oh shit. Oh shit, we made it out of this bitch. Uh-oh. Don't tell me that Deterrent's still alive out there. Oh, what the fuck was that? Why is it so loud all of a sudden? Oh, that whole fucking place. Oh shit, he tried to crawl out. He tried to crawl out up after me. Get the fuck away. Who you think you is?
Don't you despise me? Don't you want me gone?
I don't really care.
All the times I tried to fix your wrongdoings,
I'm kind of indifferent.
I have already lost.
Yeah, you did.
So go ahead, David.
What?
Free me from this place.
Oh shit, there was a dude in there. There was a dude in there, bro. Gulp. Brutally slaughtered. Wait, did you tell me I just killed a fucking dude down there? Like it wasn't even a robot? I just killed a dude? Is that what you're saying? Trying to understand here. Oh shit. That is disco, bro. Teerland. No, that was badass. That was a badass game, bro. I can't even front with you. And just like that, we have completion. David puts an axe through the deterrent's head, and we have game over. Except one where we look like a badass. But the story of Teerland is far more interesting than just that. It begins with two brothers, long before the lights of Teerland ever flickered on. Teal Artel and David Artel built their company from nothing, a small business that slowly grew into something bigger, something sharper. And at the peak of that momentum, the brothers opened an amusement park attraction. Something simple, something fun, something that, at the time, didn't feel like it carried any real weight. That attraction was called Teerland. For a while, it was nothing more than a strange little corner of the Artel brothers' world, a pet project tucked into the side of a much larger dream. Families came and went, the park buzzed with life, and nobody thought of it as anything more than a novelty. But places like this don't stay harmless forever, not when the people running them drift apart, not when one of them starts slipping into ideas that don't belong in an amusement park. Eventually, Teal and David's partnership cracked, the company fractured, and not long after, Teerland shut down completely. No public explanation, no clean ending. The gates closed, the lights went out, and the attraction was left to rot under its own dust. When the world moved on, the Artel brothers went their separate ways. One of them tried to rebuild his life, the other vanished. Years passed before David Artel heard from his brother again. Out of nowhere, Teal reached out to him, a voice from a past he thought he'd buried, begging David to return to the old amusement park. The message didn't make sense. It didn't sound like the Teal he once knew, but there was fear in it, desperation, something that made David realize he couldn't ignore it. And so, against every instinct telling him to stay away, he went back. When David arrived, Teerland was worse than abandoned. It felt staged, silent in a way that didn't feel natural, half-crumbled structures, props left in strange positions, as if the place hadn't simply been forgotten, but deliberately prepared for someone. And as he wandered deeper into the park, trying to find his brother, he stumbled across something that confirmed it, a hidden entrance leading down into the earth, tracing beneath the park itself. David's company, the one he and Teeler built together, had been hiding an entire facility underneath the attraction. A whole underground complex, sealed off from the public long before Teerland ever closed. A place where their past hadn't just been stored, it had been left alive. Once inside, David realized this wasn't just a forgotten workplace. The lights still worked, the systems still responded, and something else was awake down there with him. Something that didn't want him leaving. As he pushed further into the complex, the truth started to bleed through in fragments. Teal had been down here. Recently, he'd been working with the animatronics again, repairing them, rewiring them, bringing pieces of a dead attraction back to life. But whatever he had been doing, it wasn't for entertainment anymore. The machines began to move on their own, stalking the halls, watching David, responding like something had trained them toward him specifically. None of this was accidental. None of this was the result of some wandering malfunction. Teal had built an entire scenario deep underground, a controlled maze, a sequence of escalating encounters, leading David step by step through the remnants of their old work. Every hour that passed in the facility dragged him closer to the heart of the place, and closer to Teal's intentions, and along the way, David discovered something he had always kept buried. The truth about what happened years ago, about the employee who died, about the body that David hid, and about what that one terrible decision did to Teal's mind. When Teal finally emerged, no longer the person David once knew, but someone warped by grief, guilt, and obsession, David realized the entire journey through Teerland had been orchestrated. Teal didn't bring David here to save him, he brought him here to force a reckoning between them, surrounded by the machines that represented everything that went wrong in their lives. The final confrontation wasn't between man and animatronic, it was between brother and brother. One consumed by the past, the other trying desperately to bury it. And in the end, the fight ended the only way it could. David killed Teal. Not out of malice, not out of hatred, but out of a moment where survival became the only option left. When it was over, the facility fell silent. The machines powered down, and as David surfaced from the underground, authorities arrived. They didn't see a man who'd been hunted. They didn't see the twisted maze his brother designed. All they saw was David Artell standing over the body of his own brother. He was arrested, charged, and locked away. And just like that, Teerland, the amusement park, the secrets beneath it, the broken partnership that created all of it, was left behind again. This time buried under police tape and unanswered questions. A dead attraction built on dead ideas, reclaimed once more by silence. And with that, as far as I'm aware, is all that Teerland has to offer. Overall, I think this game was a ton of fun to play. It's not often that a FNAF game has me wanting to try and 100% it, but just like Juniors, Teerland had me wanting to give it a try. The character designs are amazing, the atmosphere and story are phenomenal, and of course, the gameplay loop is one of the most enjoyable I've ever played. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think Teerland is actually just forgettable garbage? Let me know in the comments below. In my Project Readjusted video, I asked you guys which FNAF cliche you'd like to see removed. And my favorite answer was this one by Dragon S Ether. They said the cliche of dead bodies stuffed in suits, and I totally agree. I think we can all agree that the reason a game like Graveyard Shift at Freddy's is so scary is because the animatronics aren't possessed. So seeing other games find interesting explanations as to why the robots are alive would be really cool. What makes a horror game truly scary? Is it jump scares, atmosphere, build-up? Well, of course, all of these things together and more is what builds up a horror game to be something amazing. But I think if I had to choose one word to answer the question, what makes a horror game truly scary, my answer would be realism. In order for your game to be truly scary, I feel like the player has to be able to connect with your game on a personal level. And what better way to make that happen than to make the environment around them feel real? The game we'll be talking about today, I feel, pulled this off almost perfectly. A Five Nights at Freddy's fan game that was able to capture the real feel of an office, an environment, and realistic means of self-defense in a situation that seems so dire you'd think you'd never be able to make it out to tell the tale. The game we'll be covering today is Freddy's Reanimated, the most realistic FNAF game ever made. Reanimated does not begin like most FNAF games tend to. This game opens to a dark void. We're told that when we die, we will be brought back to this void and that we won't be remembered. However, if we are to be remembered, what is the name we'd like etched into our headstone? And it's here where we can actually choose a name for our character. Afterwards, we're booted into the menu where we can begin the game. As the game begins, we're given a pretty eerie opening cinematic, something pretty uncommon with Five Nights at Freddy's games. It serves to show how we found the job online on a listing site to work as a security guard for 5 days in an abandoned pizzeria. Fantastic! I know myself personally would never accept a job that I know for a fact won't even last a week, but hey, different strokes for different folks, I suppose. With that, we're thrown into the first night where I can talk about hands down one of my favorite parts about this game. Loading into the office, we're hit with something crazy. This game looks real. The office looks like an actual office, with objects placed around that actually look like they should be there. not just a random assortment of items like we typically see in FNAF games. And the sound design is amazing. This game looks real, it sounds real, and I think that's one of the big reasons why people love this game so much. It tries to feel real. Watch for when he's closest. He can be tricked easily. What the fuck does that mean, bro? Holy shit. Oh my god. What the fuck? This looks sick. Of course, like most FNAF games tend to do, we have a phone call on each night to listen to. Instead of the usual where the phone guy at least sounds somewhat like they know what they're doing, the phone guy in Reanimated sounds baked out of his fucking mind.
Speaking of which, the only reason we have a security guard job right now is because the place is being demolished soon. So we don't want any funny business going on at night.
He tells us the basics of our camera. Who cares? That's my job. What he does say that's actually of note is that the building we're in has been abandoned for over a decade. And the only reason we're watching over it now is because the building is about to be demolished. And for some reason, they're concerned about funny business going on because of that. I have no idea what funny business is supposed to mean. My first guess was people breaking in to steal something, but then I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. People could have been stealing from this place for the last 10 plus years. Why would they all of a sudden decide they needed to do this now? Maybe it means graffiti, but the place is being demolished, so who cares? This is such a weird thing to latch onto, but I just feel like it's strange to mention this now. And it does actually bring up a good question. Why would you hire someone to guard a building that won't exist in 5 days? But you never hired a guard for the past 10 years that it was abandoned. It almost makes you wonder if they were expecting something to happen. And maybe that's why they're demolishing it. Before I get into any of the characters, let's talk about the controls of this game and the 3 tools at our disposal. You can only look in 2 directions in this game, at your computer and at your door and window. Something super interesting about this door is that it is actually just a door, which is pretty scary in a game like this where your doors are mainly known as your only means of defense. You can pull the blinds of your window down if you want to, and when I first found that out, I was reasonably concerned as to why. I see this right here, and I know this game's about to be fucked. I know this game is about to be so fucked, dude. It's just a normal fucking door. Bro, these motherfuckers gonna open the shit out of that thing. And we'll get into why in just a minute. But first, I really want to talk about the cameras and why they serve to be one of the most difficult things to deal with in this entire game. Upon looking at the cameras, you'll realize there's no typical camera map and buttons. Instead, there's just arrows at the bottom of the cameras that you can click to move from one camera to the next, fairly slowly. This is brilliant in 2 ways. With the realism approach that this game is taking. Looking at the surroundings, we can tell that this game takes place a pretty long time ago in 2013. We can tell this because of the confirm window at the beginning of the game being Windows 7 and the fact that the game tells us. But I just wanted to seem cool by pointing out that I knew what the Windows 7 UI was. Shut up. And yes, 2013 was a long time ago. I know for some of you it may not feel like it, but it was 12 years ago. That's older than some of my audience who, let's be honest, really shouldn't be watching my videos. Mom and dad, monitor your kids, fuckhead. Knowing this and knowing that the game is aiming to be realistic, opting to use a slow, outdated system like this is genius. Even if, yes, I think it's AIDS and very annoying. However, once we start talking about the way this game plays, I'll bring up why I think the way these cameras are set up is needed. Anyways, on to the reason why I think this is as annoying as it is. Mainly because it's not consistent in one way that I would expect it to be. There are 9 cameras in total to surf through. When you reach camera 9, if you press the forward arrow again, you will be sent back to camera 1. That makes sense. So, what do you think happens if you press the back arrow while on camera 1? If you said you go back to camera 9, you would be completely wrong because the back arrow doesn't even fucking exist on camera 1. Why is this the case? I have no idea. If it was consistent either way, this wouldn't bother me, but you can cycle in one direction and not the other. And yes, this is noticeable and it does matter. Now we can finally talk about the first threat this game throws at you. I'm sure you could have guessed who it is. That's right, it's Chica. I lied, it's Bonnie. Of course it's Bonnie. Surprisingly, each character in this game attacks you in a unique way. Even though we only have 3 tools, this game somehow manages to make each character vastly different from one another, and I think that's amazing. Bonnie's main goal is to sneak into your office. He will move around the cameras until he gets to your door. And when he gets to your door, be ready. Close that motherfucker! Oh my god. Dude, literally fuck that. Literally fuck that. The moment I saw this, I knew that this was getting a Dxtr White video. And even the people in my comments over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, knew that this game was getting a white video. I actually had another video lined up for this week, and I've chosen to postpone it so that I could talk about this game first, since I love it so much. It's moments like these that FNAF games need. Once Bonnie is at your window, all you have to do is hold down your blinds until you hear his big fat feet galloping away. Not an overtly difficult character to deal with, but really paves the way for what the rest of this game has to offer. Luckily for us, there's a post-night minigame section after each night that we get to talk about. But hold up, Dxtr. Don't you usually hate post-night minigames? Yeah, typically I do. However, this game's post-night minigames don't make me want to shove a porcupine in my asshole backwards. There's no repetitive 8-bit minigames, and again, what we're doing in these minigames still feels realistic. After completing the night, we get another call from the phone guy. He asks us before we head home to go into the storage room and find an old computer, which we can use to upload some old pictures and footage of the building to the cloud. He says he wants to upload some of the interesting stuff to his personal blog, which I'm sure violates some sort of contract, but who am I to care? I break the law all the time. For example, if I was in the UK, I'd probably be arrested on the spot because of the language I choose to use. Anyways, something I think is cool is that we actually get to walk into the back room. We don't just miraculously get placed there. This will become important later, by the way. After walking into the storage room, we can access the computer and start uploading files to the cloud. You'll notice that you can turn to the exit of the room. For now, it's unknown why. After waiting for ages for the upload to finish, we walk out of the storage room and finish out our shift, moving on to night 2. On night 2, we get another call from the phone guy, where we find out that our player is actually trying to do something about the fact that the characters are moving. Apparently, we sent an email to the phone guy explaining that we saw Bonnie moving. We called him the creepy rabbit, which seemed to frustrate the phone guy a little bit, to the point he corrected us on his name.
Oh yeah, and that creepy rabbit you were talking about, he has a name. It's Bonnie.
Sure, this could have just been playful, but I get the funny feeling it's not. The threat introduced on this night is Chica, arguably the least threatening character in this entire game. Chica will randomly wander around your cameras, and she has the chance to charge at your door from 2 of those cameras. Except the difference with Chica approaching your door is that closing the blinds will not stop her. She can attack on cameras 2 and camera 4. You can tell when she's going to attack based on the position she's standing in. On camera 2, she'll be very close to the camera, and in camera 4, she'll be on the very left side of the camera. When she is in either of these 2 positions, you will need to use the flash button on your cameras to flash said camera and scare her away. You may be wondering why there's a flash on these cameras. That's not very realistic, and Dxtr, you told me this whole game was realistic. And now hear me out. Usually I'd agree with you, but I want you to take that concern like a boomerang and launch it as far away from you as possible. Night 2's post-night minigame has us go back to the computer in the storage room to fiddle with the power system. Now this you can complain about because I have no idea what the hell that is supposed to mean. And actually doing the task doesn't really answer anything either. We are shown a series of sliders that we have to quite literally fiddle with. Apparently doing so will reset the power. How do you tell you've put the sliders in the correct spot? Well, you just have to do trial and error. Move one slider a single place, press reset, and if it turns red, change it again. This is very monotonous. If only there was something else on this night to cure my boredom. I don't want to look back. What did I tell you? It's moments like these that really make these FNAF games stand out. To any future FNAF devs, do cool shit. Your game does not have to be stupidly hard to be memorable. It just has to do cool things. And this is some of the coolest shit I've ever seen. While looking at the computer, Bonnie will slowly try to creep closer and closer to you. You will have to look back at him lest he shoot his Jeep juice all over your spine. You can actually watch him walk backwards while you look at him, almost like he knows you've noticed he's moved, and is attempting to readjust himself so you go back to looking away. What the fuck? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my fucking god! Did you see that shit? Motherfucker just crip walked back, he moonwalked. It's honestly some of the creepiest shit I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game, and I love it. After completing this minigame and turning towards the door, you'll realize that Bonnie has gone away. Obviously getting bored of you because you're boring. So all we have to do now is walk out of the building. You want me to walk out that motherfucking door? You honestly want me to walk out that fucking door? I mean, I'll do it, but fuck. Oh my fucking god! This game is fucking awesome, by the way. But now it's time to move on to night 3. On night 3, the phone guy says he got another email from us because we told him that Chica was now moving too. He said that in case anyone else starts moving, we should use the flash, because they're probably not used to bright lights. Again, I find this weird coming from him. And come to think of it, why would any of the animatronics from any FNAF game be sensitive to light? They're always on stage where bright lights are beaming on them almost constantly. So I just find it odd how much the phone guy seems to want us to do this. He ends off the call by stating he wanted to tell us a story, but he's out of time. Maybe we'll hear that story another day. For now, let me tell you the story of Sparky the dog. You remember, the hoax character that was said to be in Five Nights at Freddy's 1 way back in the day? Yeah, for some reason he's in this game. And he's the threat introduced on night 3. His mechanics are simple, but really start to show how annoying this camera system is going to become. Occasionally, Sparky will bark. When he does, he will be teleported to a random camera. You will have to find which camera he's on and flash him. Am I a huge fan of this mechanic? No, not at all. And I'm really not a fan when I have to meticulously scrape through each camera one by one. Overall, so far, it's not going to be all too bad. Keep your eyes on Chica, find Sparky every once in a while, and occasionally hold the blinds for Bonnie. Simple sugar, not so bad. But trust me, it'll get bad pretty damn fast. After completing the shift, we get another call from the phone guy. He tells us the cameras have been acting strange, and that we should use the computer in the storage room to reset them. He also curiously mentions that he has remote access to the camera system. So that brings up the question, why the fuck are we even here? If someone else is able to watch the cameras in the safety of their own home, where there aren't a bunch of murder robots trying to butt fuck them, who cares? Let's just finish our shift and head to the storage room.
I'll see you on the flip side.
I'll see you in the grave, asshole. So let me tell you a little something. Oh my fucking god! I love this game. I don't know if that was obvious or not. Entering the storage room is when we enter by far the most difficult minigame section in this entire game. I'm not kidding. We're tasked with literally just holding a button down on the PC. Once it charges all the way, we'll reset a camera and move on to the next one. However, when you let go, the bar will very quickly decrease. That may not sound so bad. It would only be bad if we had a certain purple distraction trying to blow our backs out now, wouldn't it? What the fuck? What? Bro, he's fast as shit. Bonnie is the sole reason why this minigame is so AIDS. Bonnie, for some reason, thought that today was the day he was going to take the Rock Lee ankle weights off and show us his true speed. Bonnie is so astronomically fast during this minigame, it's not even funny. 3, 2, 3. Oh my motherfucking god. Oh my fucking god. Oh my fucking god. Can I break his knees? You have maybe 2 seconds of time to look at the screen before he kills you, so you have to be fast. And what adds to the difficulty of this night, the hitbox of the progress bar you have to click and hold. Swiping your mouse back and forth to check on Bonnie, then moving back to the computer is insanity. And when you come back, you have to hold the position of your mouse on this tiny little progress bar and continue to hold. But you can only hold for maybe 1 second before you have to turn back around to Bonnie and wait for him to walk all the way back to the door. And keep in mind, the progress bar is decreasing every time you look away, so you're really just fucked. And once you complete a camera is when you notice you have to fix 3 more. And if you ever die to Bonnie, go back into them all over again. Fuck you. This minigame took me around 30 minutes to finally complete. It's unironically the second hardest canonical challenge in this game, and I would love to have to never do it again. Oh, but one more interesting detail about this minigame. The final camera you fix briefly shows Foxy in the camera. Oh boy, I hope that's not foreshadowing or something. After completing that hell, we don't have to almost get touched by any robots on our way out and are free to move on to night 4. The phone guy calls us and fucking rambles about some bullshit I don't care about. He says that there was an ancient civilization that archaeologists found, and those researchers were later haunted by handprints of the ancient civilization. Again, I really don't give a fuck. This is purely symbolic for the story of the game, which I'll talk about later. But this was the story he was itching to tell us. I would rather itch my balls than hear him talk about that again. The threat introduced on this night is Foxy. Spoiler alert, the camera was foreshadowing something. Foxy acts exactly how you think Foxy would act. You have to look at him to stall him, and if you don't, he'll run to your office. But as I'm sure you could have guessed, he too doesn't care about your door. Watching him will push him back, so you know, just make sure you're doing that. Something of note is how Foxy breaks the cycle you've been really trying to build up throughout the game, forcing you to develop a new one. Up until this point, watching Chica has probably been your main focus. But now with the character that demands even more attention, I'm sure you can figure out why Foxy will put a big wrench into your plans. Now you have to find a way to constantly watch Foxy and Chica. And lucky us, Foxy is on camera 6, several cameras away from Chica's attack cameras. This game knows what it's doing. Sure, it's frustrating, but it's also genius. In this post-night minigame, we're told we have to fix a ventilation problem. Phone guy tells us it's just turning a few knobs. The ventilation room is in a door right off of the storage room, so the storage room is where we go. I don't see anyone yet. Hi, Bonnie. Were you expecting me to go there? Were you expecting to cut me off? Sorry, asshole. Not gonna happen. Is that not horrifying? Bonnie is standing right next to the computer we've been going to every night. He's starting to remember our patterns, getting to the computer before we can in hopes that he could jump us. But lucky for us, the computer is not where we need to go this time. Entering into the ventilation room, we have 6 knobs in front of us and 2 large vents to our left and right. Pretty reminiscent of the office from Pizzeria Simulator. I wonder if anything is going to come through those vents to try and kill us. Silly little viewer. Of course there is. This minigame's threat is Foxy. Throughout the minigame, Foxy will make quiet sound cues in whichever vent he's about to attack from. When you hear him, all you have to do is turn to stare at him until he goes away. Meanwhile, you have to painfully slowly turn these 6 knobs, which will take a very long time. Because as you get closer to having them all finish, it seems that Foxy will attack you more and more frequently. After completing this task, we can leave with no other funny business taking place. Finally, we're left with one last night. One last thing standing in our way, and this game holds no punches in introducing it. Before you is something long forgotten. Something that was once loved and cherished, but now it lies broken. It is left abandoned. You know what becomes of something long forgotten. It dies a second death. It grows cold. It is unmoving. But what if some things don't wish to be forgotten? Do you know what happens when something refuses to be forgotten? It becomes angry Anger is eternal. Anger grows, it festers, it burns, it writhes, and then it finally happens. It is given new life. It returns to us. It haunts us. However, it doesn't return as it once was. It returns as something else, something unrecognizable. Through its anger, it is reanimated. And with that, we're given one final message. The flash slows him down. Godspeed. When I first read that message, it gave me chills for some reason. It's like just by reading that, I knew what I was about to experience. Absolute agony. We get another call from the phone guy. He explains his reasoning for why he thinks the robots are alive. He thinks they're angry that they've been forgotten about and left abandoned for years, and he couldn't be more right. Night 5 introduces Freddy. Holy fucking shit, Freddy. Freddy is by far the most dangerous character in this entire game. When Freddy moves forward, he will never move backwards. And once he gets to your office, it's over for you. Yo, get the fuck away from that fucking door! You get the fuck away from that door! What? Oh, fuck, dude. Freddy is a dick. Raps. How do you stall Freddy? By using the flash, of course. When you flash Freddy, he will cover his eyes. Something interesting to note is that Freddy is the only character to be animated on the cameras. Such a small detail, but a detail I think is really cool. If you really want to make sure Freddy doesn't move, you'll have to time his intervals, since they don't vary, and make sure you're onto his camera and flash him at quite literally every single opportunity. You don't have much time to waste, as Freddy is fast. Really fucking fast. I don't quite have the vocabulary necessary to describe how intense this night really is. And if you get bad Sparky spawns like I often did, you could easily spend hours on this night. I was lucky enough to only have it take me a single hour. But if you manage to control your nerves long enough to complete this night, we will have one final minigame to talk about. After completion, we get one final call from the phone guy. He very ominously tells us to enter the dining room. He says he wants to show us something. Upon entering the dining room, we're greeted by all 5 animatronics staring back at us. The camera to the dining room flashes, and we hear the phone guy, named Ralph, explain that the reason it flashes is so that you can take a screenshot of the camera. Ow! Oh! Oh! Fuck! See? That's why I told you to make it a boomerang. Ralph then used that image to post on his blog. He's been using these camera images for his blog all week, and we were the bait. One last goodbye is said, and the restaurant goes quiet. The gameplay of Freddy's Reanimated is incredible. There's no doubting that. This game, of course, has a custom night with 3 additional unlockable characters. The first of which being Bon Bon, who's actually a reference to the game Freddy's Web Adventure. Pretty cool. Occasionally, he will appear on your cameras. If you don't click him fast enough, he will disable all of them for the remainder of the night. The next character you can unlock is called the Hawk. He acts as a Phantom Chica-like character. He will periodically appear on the cameras, blocking the view, and if you don't turn away from him, he will kill you. Pretty simple, but in a game where the cameras are super important, this guy can be a big pain in the ass. Finally, the last character you can unlock is Sienna, by far the most cancerous of the Custom Night 3. She will occasionally block the clock next to your door, which somehow prevents time from passing. This is a Custom Night character that can drop the realism at this point. All you have to do is click her nose and she will go away and the time will continue to pass. Altogether, completing a Custom Night with these 3 additional characters is a torture I would never want to put myself through. But shout out to Dark Ryun, who was able to pull it off, and whose footage you're seeing right now. I should mention that the Custom Night does have a secret ending, but I'll bring it up when I talk about the story of this game. Which, you know, we'll do right now. The story of Freddy's Reanimated is honestly one of the most surprisingly thoughtful pieces of writing I've ever seen in a FNAF fan game. It's not about murder, or purple men, or endless timelines that make my brain feel like fucking mashed potatoes. It's about being forgotten. and about what happens when something that used to bring people joy is left to rot and fade away. The entire game is built on this theme: nostalgia, decay, and the quiet horror of being erased from memory. Freddy's Reanimated takes place inside Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, a restaurant that's already dead by the time we get there. It used to be loved. Kids laughed, parents smiled, the animatronics performed, and everything was fine. Until it wasn't. Over time, the crowd stopped coming. The lights dimmed, the laughter stopped. The building was abandoned and left to gather dust for over a decade. No massacres, no missing children, just nothing. The kind of death most things really suffer. When the game starts, we're told the place is finally being demolished, and Ralph, the manager, hires a night guard to keep an eye on the place for the last few days. That's us. But before us, there was another guard, Mike Schmidt. Yeah, that Mike Schmidt. He worked one night, just one, and didn't make it out. In the demo of this game, we actually see what happened. Mike survives until 6 a.m. The power cuts, and Freddy himself storms into the office and literally bites his head off. No mystery, no cover-up. It's brutal. It's direct, and it sets the tone for everything that follows. When Ralph brings us in months later, he acts like none of that ever happened. He's casual, a little too calm, and gives us these half-baked instructions that sound like he's either high out of his mind or hiding something. He keeps asking us to do these little tasks: fix the power, upload old files, check the cameras, all while brushing off the fact that the animatronics are moving. Every night, our character emails Ralph describing what they saw, and every night Ralph dances around the truth. He never says, "You're wrong," but he never says, "You're right" either. It's like he knows what's going on, but refuses to say it out loud. Then, finally, on the last night, Ralph tells us a story. The story he's been dying to share. He says that back in the 1940s, archaeologists discovered a cave covered in human handprints. The people who found it were haunted by those same handprints for the rest of their lives. Like the dead were reaching out just to remind them they were still there. And Ralph thinks the same thing is happening to Freddy's. He believes the animatronics are moving because they refuse to be forgotten. That after sitting abandoned for over a decade, their anger, this pure, desperate rage, literally reanimated them. Not out of vengeance, not because of possession, but because of memory. Because they were once loved and then left behind. It's such a fascinating take. The idea that these animatronics aren't evil, they're afraid. Afraid of fading away. It's one of the first FNAF fan games I've seen that makes you feel sorry for the monsters chasing you. They're not killing you because they want to, they're killing you because they don't want to disappear. After you survive the final night, Ralph asks you to head into the dining room. He says he wants to show you something. When you enter, all 5 animatronics are standing there, waiting for you. It's one of the eeriest visuals in the entire game. Completely still, completely silent. Ralph activates the camera flash, and the screen freezes in a burst of light. Then he says,
I finally figured out what the flash button does. It lights up the room so that you can take a screenshot of the camera you're looking at. I finally have more recent images for my blog.
And that's when it hits you. The whole time, we weren't protecting the building, we were the bait. Ralph was using us to get the footage and screenshots he wanted for his personal blog, to turn the remains of this haunted restaurant into online content, the same way we, as players, chase nostalgia. Ralph chases it too. He's obsessed with documenting something that's supposed to be gone. After everything, the building is demolished. Ralph's posts about it online, sparking renewed interest in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. People remember it again. The animatronics, those same restless spirits that didn't want to be forgotten, finally get what they wanted. They are remembered. And then they rest. The player gets their paycheck. The story ends not with a scream, but with silence. It's such a powerful way to close things out. Freddy's Reanimated isn't about surviving animatronics. It's about the fear of being erased. It's about what happens when the world moves on and leaves you behind. Even the custom night ending reflects that idea. Mike Schmidt's death is written off as a bear attack. Just a tiny headline, nothing more. And Freddy Fazbear himself, lying in the rubble, surrounded by everything that used to be alive, now just forgotten scraps of metal. For a game that's meant to be realistic, it's ironic that the story is one of the most human I've ever seen in this genre. Freddy's Reanimated isn't just the most realistic FNAF game ever made, it's one of the most real stories the community has ever told. Would you like to hear one last interesting piece of information I have to share? There is a secret in this game up until this point. As far as I'm aware, nobody has ever found it, and I can guarantee you've never seen it before. A secret so rare that the chances of finding it exceed luck that no human has ever had. And I want to thank City, the author of the FNAF fan game wiki, for providing me with this information and allowing me to share it with you guys. We know that Michael got bitten and killed by Freddy, but did you know you can actually see Michael's corpse inside of the game? You just have to be incredibly lucky. To start, you must have already beaten the main game. No custom night completion is necessary. Then you have to restart the game from night 1. Before completing night 3, you will have to die at least 5 times. Then, upon beating night 3, when entering the hallway, there's a 1 in 10,000 chance to see the corpse. Slight gore warning, by the way. This is probably the most realistic looking gore I've ever seen in a FNAF game. If you can pull all of that off and get more lucky than any human on Earth, this is what you will see in the hallway. Truly some of the scariest shit I've ever seen. But there you have it. That's everything as far as I'm aware that Freddy's Reanimated has to offer. Overall, this game is one of the coolest experiences I've ever had since starting this channel. I don't think this game is nearly my favorite. I think I like Junior's and Banshee just a little bit more, but it's definitely close. The atmosphere, the sound design, the game design are all borderline perfect works of art. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think that this game is actually just fucking horrible? Let me know in the comments below. In my Too Many Nights video, I asked you guys who your favorite character to play as was, and my favorite answer was none of them because I couldn't find a comment that answered the question. But I did find a lot of comments upset with me because I choose to say retarded. Subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it a lot. Thank you to all of my superfan channel members, you guys are the rizziest. I've been Dxtr, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!